Hello YouTube, this is Amy Arwin. I'm back again for another vlog. I want to start off by saying thank you to everyone from last week that left comments. I really appreciated that, and the feedback was wonderful. Also, a few people subscribed to my channel, and I thought that was really neat. So you all will probably be getting a notification when this vlog finally gets posted. A few others also gave me some ideas for topics to talk about, things that they'd like to hear me speak on when I make vlogs. And I will definitely get to all of those topics. They were really wonderful. Some people had some additional questions, and I'm trying to get back to everybody. So if anyone has any questions that they want, they could message me, they could leave a comment. They can, if you're my real life friends, you can send me an email or a call. I'm fine with anyone asking anything, and I'm trying to get back to everybody who's messaged me. This week I kind of wanted to go back. I felt like the first video, I kind of did a question and answer for all of you that had questions after I came out. And though I thought that was really good, I feel like I got to answer the majority of everyone's questions. I wanted to kind of go back into the story of my childhood and how I got to this point, because I don't feel like I really touched on that very well. I kind of glanced over it with one of the questions that was asked last week. So I was going to start with that, and I think that might give a good basis for everything else that comes afterward. So I grew up in the suburbs of New York City. I feel like I had a regular American childhood. My closest friend growing up was a neighbor and another girl. Her name was Missy, and we were pretty much inseparable up until about 6th grade when she moved away. We did pretty much everything together. We spent most of our times together, and she was a really big part of my life. And I kind of mention that just because I feel like not being around another female is what caused me to be transgender. It doesn't really work like that, but I feel like it was probably one of the first indicators of who I am. Not to say that a boy that hangs around with a girl is anything other than a boy if that's who they are. But for me, I think it was a sign that I kind of was looking at once I started to really do some introspection. So then, also right around probably about the age of 7 or 8, I started experimenting with wearing female clothing. I have a sister, and she was a little embarrassed when I told her this, but when I was about that age, I started wearing her clothing when she wasn't around. I mean, I didn't feel like at the time it was wrong to do. It's just I knew that it wasn't my stuff. So, but I knew that I felt like I was supposed to be wearing those clothes, and I really wanted to wear those clothes. Also, she has definitely been the person who has had the biggest effect on my personality, especially when I was a little kid. I really looked up to her, and I idolized her a lot. Again, that's not something, I didn't want to be her, but I wanted to be like her, and I wanted to do the things that she did just because I felt like that's who I was supposed to be too. And I really liked the clothing that she wore. She had a great fashion sense. She still does. And so I started wearing her clothes when I could get away with it. I did that probably until the age of 11 or 12. Probably maybe more like 11. No, well, anyway, somewhere around preteen area. When I started to hang around with boys a lot more. I was in Little League and Boy Scouts when I was a kid, so I hung around boys a good bit, and that just blossomed into some wonderful friendships that I still hold very dear. And I noticed that the boys my age weren't doing that. At least they didn't talk about it or didn't seem interested in things like that. They were much more interested in sports or things of that nature. I can't really remember all the exact things we would do, but I started to kind of regret dressing up in women's clothes, feel like I was doing something wrong or something bad, and I stopped doing it because I felt I didn't want to be abnormal. You know, when you get into especially when you get into those tween, preteen kind of years, you really want to fit in, and it's a very important part of who you are in late middle school, early high school, and I definitely was part of that. So I kind of started denying that part of me. All through high school, I tried to fit in as best I can. I played sports. I played football. I hated it, so I quit. And I hung around with other boys. I did all the things that they would do. And I started to drink probably a good deal later in high school, especially that last year of high school. And when I got into college, I drank a good bit as well. Looking back at that, I feel like that was something I did to kind of medicate the empty feeling I was having because of the denial. So I feel it definitely had some problems, though I felt like I was denying it very well. I was very able to compartmentalize and not think about that side of my life, at least for a short period of time. I even tried to do things that I felt were extremely macho. At the time, it wasn't something that was a conscious part of my decision, but subconsciously looking back on it, I'm sure it played a big part in trying to fit in, was that when I joined the military. So I served in the military for 6.5 years, and I feel like I was really, I picked the most macho thing I could think of, which was being in the infantry. It's an area of the military that even in this day and age doesn't allow women, and I feel that was probably a big, the reason I chose that was a big thing of just trying to be as masculine as possible, is trying to hide the feminine side of myself. So once I got into nursing school, I decided after the military, I decided while I was in the military, and started pursuing afterward, to go into medicine. I wanted to become a physician. And I knew my grades weren't good enough to get into med school, plus I needed some prereqs done before I could apply to medical school, mainly science courses. And I decided while pursuing those science courses to go to nursing school. I felt like going to nursing school was going to allow me the time to show I was serious academically, and when I applied to medical schools, that it would look really good. That, one, I had a background in healthcare, and that I did very well. And I did do very well in nursing school. And I think even going through nursing school and really enjoying the academics behind it and the time I spent in the hospital with patients, I felt like I was still going for that medical degree just because, and this is such a stereotype and it doesn't have to be true, but in our society, nursing is viewed somewhat as a female profession. I work in pediatrics, and I don't know how many times before I started even the basics of transitioning, the first thing I did was grow out my hair. Even before that, I don't know how many times I had little kids ask me, "You're a guy? I thought only girls could be nurses," or I thought guys were doctors and girls were nurses. And I think that had a big part in me deciding that I wanted to eventually go into medicine, even though I was enjoying nursing quite a bit. Once I got out of nursing school, I think the time that I spent being around primarily females in nursing school, because it is dominated by females, really started the introspection. I was feeling depressed. I felt kind of lost and isolated, even though I had some wonderful friends who I spent lots of time with. It's kind of one of those instances that you're surrounded by people and feeling totally alone. And that's when I started to really look into things. And I feel like that time that I spent with so many women really kind of opened my eyes to what I felt was missing in my life. That being in that profession and being a guy, I still was accepted by everybody, and being accepted in a female role, or stereotypically what a female role is, felt really good to me. I really enjoyed the fact that I was a nurse for what I did, but I also, when thinking back to my coworkers at the time, the fact that they accepted me as this stereotypically female position made me feel accepted as a female. And that was kind of one of the things that broke through the depression. When I was feeling really alone and by myself, I would think of those times sometimes, and it would make me feel better. So I started looking into the trans community first on the internet. And I would go on to people's vlogs on YouTube, like this one, and listen to them say similar things to what I'm saying right now, just what their journey was, how they started. And that really was eye-opening, because I didn't really understand what a transsexual was. I knew the basic idea, probably a lot of the same things that you all know that aren't part of this community. Like, it's somebody who doesn't feel like they're in the right body, or some of those other cliches that somebody who's born a male and turns into a female, or vice versa. But they really started to open my eyes through just their storytelling. So that was kind of like my early transition experience in my early childhood. I feel like I said in the beginning, it was fairly normal, other than the fact that I wasn't able to be who I was. And it sounds like such a big thing, but really the denial part that I talked about in the beginning was fairly easy, and really only made me feel ashamed in the very early parts of it, when I was about a teenager. Ashamed that I had expressed those interests as a child or expressed my femininity as a child, and wanted to kind of forget about that. So it came but rather easily, and it's not until much later did it really manifest itself in a little bit of in some depression and also some drinking issues. That said, I don't drink anymore, so that's a good thing. Not that I have anything against drinking, but for me it was uncontrolled at the time. And I'm so much happier now that I've started transitioning. I've grown to really start to love myself. It's a long process coming from despising yourself to loving yourself again, so it's going along quite well. But that's all I have for this week. Next week I'll probably get into one of the topics that somebody suggested. But if y'all have any suggestions for topics for the future, or something you want me to talk about, please feel free to message me. If you like this, you can like it on YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel. I really love it when people subscribe to my channel. That feels really good when somebody wants to hear what I have to say. Or message me, or whatever you'd like to do. I'd love to hear your feedback. So until next time, I'm Amy Arwen, and I hope you all are doing well, and love y'all. Bye-bye.